everyone, it's Wendy. Welcome to Show Me Mo Vegan. In today's video, we're going to talk a little bit about nutrition. Now, I don't generally recommend tracking your nutrients, counting calories, anything like that. If you like tracking your food and that works for you, go for it. But it's absolutely not necessary to eat a healthy diet. However, oftentimes, especially if you're just switching to a whole food vegan diet, it might be helpful to track your eating for a few days just to make sure that you're not missing out on anything. There are many different apps and tools you can use to track your nutrition. For today's video, I thought it would be fun to look back at my What I Eat videos. So I went ahead and took what I ate on those days and plugged it into Cronometer, and I'm going to show you what nutrition I had those days. Even if you've been eating a whole food vegan diet for a long time, this can be helpful if you've ever started to notice your eating patterns shift a little bit and you want to make sure that you're still getting the right nutrition. It can also be helpful when speaking with family and friends who might be concerned. Sometimes people want to just argue with you about your vegan diet just because, but oftentimes they are actually concerned because just like all of us, we grew up eating a certain way. You likely experienced this when you first went vegan, that you yourself were concerned about certain nutrients. We've been fed information our whole lives about how we need dairy to get calcium, how we need meat for protein, so it can be really hard to change your diet without concern. So even if you've gotten past that point, using something like Cronometer can be a useful tool to show your family that you're not going to wither away from a protein deficiency or some other deficiency. Today I'm showing you the free version of Cronometer. They also have a paid version that has additional tools, but I think the free version is good enough for just giving yourself a snapshot. If you haven't already, be sure to check out my What I Eat in a Day videos. I have a playlist for you where you can watch all of them. So let's jump right in. So here we have Cronometer. On the left is the calendar. Whichever day is selected is the one that will show up on the right side. This section in the right is where all of your food will show up. At the top, you can click Add Food. And Cronometer has a large database of tons of different foods. Not only do they have pretty much every food you could imagine, but they have different brands and different types of food. For example, oatmeal is something I eat a lot. So I can search for oatmeal, and as you can see, they have regular oatmeal. I can look for rolled oats or steel cut oats. And they even have different brands. So I often use Thrive Market. So they have the Thrive Market rolled oats. I also use Bob's Red Mill. They have that brand. 1 Degree Sprouted Oats. So they have tons of different items to choose from. And if they don't have the exact brand or the exact food that you need, you're bound to find something that's close enough. And then whenever you pick an item, at the bottom it gives you the option to choose how much. So you can choose how many servings, and then you can change the serving size. And depending on what the food is, it'll have different options. So in this case, I could do a 1/4 cup serving, a 1/3 cup serving, or I could choose ounces or grams to put the exact amount if I know that. And you can also adjust this. So if I chose the 1/4 cup serving, I could say 2 servings if I knew that I had a 1/2 cup. Or let's say I only had an 1/8 of a cup, so I could put 1/2 a serving. And then you would add that food and it shows up here. And then as you add foods, the information down at the bottom starts to change. So right now we just have oats listed. So this is showing you the macronutrients of that food. So it shows how many carbs, fat, and protein is in that food. And instead of having you sit here and watch me add all of this, I went ahead and input the food from my What I Eat in a Day videos. Like I said, I don't track my food regularly, So I just decided to choose my What I Eat in a Day videos because I thought that would be an easy way to show you exactly what I ate and what the nutrition looks like. So I went ahead and just plugged these in one day after the other, even though these aren't the actual days that I ate the food. But this was from my first What I Eat in a Day video. So if you haven't already, go ahead and check that one out. But I started my day with oatmeal and a smoothie. So all of these first ingredients here are from my breakfast. And then I had a big salad with sorghum and chickpeas and vegetables for lunch. And I had a soup for dinner. So you can see the list of all of my foods here. You can see the amounts that I had here. And across the top, I also just want to mention you can also add exercise. I don't usually do this because I'm not really concerned about the number of calories that I'm eating. So this would just adjust sort of your allotted calories for the day. So if we scroll down now, again, this section is showing the macronutrients. So this little pie chart is showing everything that I consumed for the day. I had about 2,100 calories, and that came from 72% carbohydrates, 13% fat, and 15% protein. I'm happy with this breakdown. It is quite different than the standard American. Someone eating a standard American diet is probably going to be closer to 30% of calories from fat and protein and much less from carbohydrates. And this macronutrient breakdown is much more similar to that of people in some of the longest lived populations on Earth. So I'm totally happy with this breakdown. If you wanted to change your ratios though, this is a great tool to help you. I know a lot of people who have particular exercise goals. Maybe you're trying to build muscle. You might want to adjust this. And I would recommend working with a dietitian and perhaps a trainer if you're trying to reach certain goals and needing to adjust your macronutrients. And then next to it here, it shows how many calories I've burned. This is just a set number that's based on information that was input when I set up my account. And that information is based on things like your height and weight. And I think it also asks a general activity level, maybe. And like I said, you can add exercise in here. So as you can see, it's showing that I consumed a lot more calories than I supposedly burned. But like I said, I didn't add any other activity. So this is literally just the number of calories you need to stay alive, just to take care of your natural functions like digestion and breathing, etc. And then at the bottom, we have a breakdown of our micronutrients and also even more of a breakdown of the macronutrients. So on the left here, we've got the macronutrients again. I sort of ignore this top section. It's showing up red here for energy because, like I said, it's showing that I consumed a lot more calories than I burned. But again, I'm not really paying attention to that. I'm using this more for the micronutrients. And then in the carbohydrate section, the only part I like to pay attention to is the fiber. So I got 67 grams of fiber on this day, which is fantastic. The recommended amount of fiber for women is about 25 grams. Most people eating a standard American diet aren't even getting that much. As you can see, I am definitely getting at least my recommended amount and much more. Next up is the fat section. I don't really pay too much attention here either. The only thing that might be of interest would be your omega-6 to 3 ratio. The ratio of omega-6 to 3 is more important than the exact amounts. Next, I'll draw attention to the protein because protein is what most people are concerned about on a vegan diet. The recommended amount of protein for a woman of my size is somewhere around 50 grams, and as you can see, I am easily meeting that. It also breaks down specific amino acids, which is kind of cool if you're worried about that. A lot of people think that plants are incomplete proteins. Plants actually do have all of the essential amino acids, just in differing amounts. So when you're eating a diverse diet and an adequate amount of calories, you're bound to get the right combination of amino acids to get all the protein you need. As you can see here, I got plenty of all of these different amino acids. Over here on the right side is the vitamins, and it looks like I'm doing pretty good on all of these. The first thing you might notice is my B12 looks really low, but B12 is the one supplement that vegans should take, and I do take a B12 supplement. You can actually add the B12 supplement to your list of food, but I don't worry about it because I know I'm getting enough. I talk a little bit more about B12 in my recent video where I go over my blood test results, so take a look at that if you haven't already. And my B vitamins here are all pretty good. They're not 100%, but it's pretty good. And vitamin E is also a little low here. The cool thing is, if you are worried about a particular nutrient, you can hover over it here and see where it was coming from the food that you ate. So most of mine on this day came from spinach and sweet potatoes. So if I had just eaten a little more of those, I would have had plenty of vitamin E in the day. And finally, we have the minerals section. So these all look great as well. Calcium isn't quite up to 100%, but the recommended amount is 1,000 milligrams, but I'm happy with getting at least 600. And again, I am not a nutritionist or a dietitian or a doctor, but I base this off of what I've heard from some of the leading plant-based doctors who have done research in this area. Again, definitely check with your doctor if you're ever concerned. Also, you can always do blood tests to check your levels if you're concerned. And again, in that video that I mentioned where I look at my blood test results, my calcium levels were fine. And then the other one that's a little low is selenium, but I'm not worried about that one. I eat Brazil nuts every couple of days, and one Brazil nut gives you more than you need in a day. I believe Dr. Greger is currently recommending no more than about 3 Brazil nuts in a week, so I definitely get at least that. And we don't have to be perfect every single day. Having an overall balanced eating pattern is more important, and in the long run, we're likely to be getting all of the nutrition we need as long as we're consuming adequate calories and a diversity of plants in our diet. So I'll quickly jump through the rest of these days. This is my second What I Eat in a Day video. Again, I had oats and a smoothie for breakfast. That's pretty much what I eat every day for breakfast. And for lunch, I had some chickpea patties along with a sweet potato and some kale. And for dinner, I had a split pea and barley soup. So again, you can see all of the foods that I ate and the amounts. Scrolling down to the bottom, again, I had about 2,100 calories total. My breakdown is about the same, 73% carb, 14% fat, and 14% protein. So we'll just hit the highlights here. I had 86 grams of fiber and 82 grams of protein. Those are both fantastic again. My B vitamins were a little better on this day, almost got 100% of all of those. Again, B12 shows very little, but I supplement with that. I think I forgot to mention vitamin D, but same story there. You get your vitamin D from the sunshine or a supplement, so I'm not worried about that. Looks like my vitamin E was a little low again, but a little better this day. All of my minerals look great again. And then my third What I Eat in a Day video, I had oats and a smoothie. I had a sheet pan meal that had potatoes and veggies and beans. And for dinner, I had a potato salad with tons of veggies. Again, my calories were around 2,100. The breakdown was very similar again. And here we go. We've got 74 grams of fiber, 85 grams of protein, and the rest of my micronutrients are looking pretty good again. And here's my most recent What I Eat in a Day video. Again, go ahead and check that out to see exactly what I ate. On this day, I had a few more calories, a little over 2,500, but my breakdown is about the same again, and had over 100 grams of fiber on this day. That is wonderful. and almost 85 grams of protein. Got 100% on almost every one of my vitamins and minerals, except for the ones that I've mentioned. So selenium, again, I'm not worried about that. Vitamin D and B12, not worried. I am a little low on that vitamin E. So this is one reason why this can be helpful. So I might need to look into trying to get more vitamin E in my day. And I can do that by looking at the foods here and choosing some of those to add a little bit more to my diet. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this video interesting and helpful. Hopefully it also quelled any fears you might have about switching to a whole food vegan diet. If you're new to this way of eating and you need some ideas on what types of food to eat, again, be sure to check out my What I Eat in a Day videos, as well as some of my recipe videos for ideas. It doesn't have to be complicated. It's just food after all, and you've probably been eating a lot of vegan foods your whole life. So try some new whole grains, beans, vegetables, and fruit, and I'm sure you'll be doing just fine. If you liked this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.